We're at the 22nd CROI, and I'm Fred Scheich with IFARA, and we're visiting with Julie Overbaugh, who is a co-chair of the conference and has been kind enough to kind of give us a background on this year's conference and what it is, and a little bit about the conference itself, as well as some of the details of the logistics of the conference. We thank you for being here, and I appreciate your welcoming us to this fair city of yours.
Yeah, sure. You know, as co-chair, I think there was a little more stress when CROI was in the home city of Seattle, but I would say one thing, that almost everybody is happy to be in Seattle. It's been lovely weather. We're not on the East Coast, and so it seems like people have been happy at this meeting.
If they can leave their own cities.
Yeah, and they may not be able to get home, but I think people have had a good meeting. The meeting has once again drawn people from, I think, 80 plus countries. About half, 40%, 45% are international folks at the conference, so we continue to draw widely. I think a real plus of this conference that was illustrated this year as well is the merge between basic science, clinical research, public health, and the community. And in fact, I spoke in a session where I talked about basic science, and the last person who spoke in that session was a lawyer who was an advocate, so it just tells you the range of expertise and interest at this meeting. So I think the meeting has been tremendous. In particular, I think the plenary talks and the opening lectures were very well received. We had an added special session on Ebola that I believe got the first standing ovation at CROI for the presenter from Doctors Without Borders, who just, I think, gave us so much insight, and you know, we can all appreciate the overlap between the Ebola epidemic and the early days of HIV and what the challenges are. So I think that was very moving and inspiring for people at the meeting. So we've been pleased with the meeting, with the science, with the diversity of things, and with the way it's worked out in Seattle.
I think the MSF presenter at the Ebola meeting, we were able to do an interview with him and one of his colleagues. And yes, he drew tears to my eyes even in this interview, because it's the challenge is that we don't have that under control. This is something I did not personally understand, that this is not under control at all. And we have a long way to go to get that virus where it needs to be, and to begin to recede its presence in the developing world. Pretty scary prospects. And but we had a lot of good information at this conference. It's all incremental, you know, but there were some, you know, outstanding presentations on various subjects. Of course, the prep was what kind of led the science, the most obvious
right.
At this conference, which I don't know that we ever had as much of, you know, and to take away from all of the impact of whatever there was in antivirals, we didn't seem to have much that stood out there. Always the cure is always there. But in basic science, since that's your bailiwick, and I did have a conversation with John Coffin, so he did talk on a few things. But if you had anything that was exciting for you personally and professionally, what would that have been?
I think the talks that drew a lot of attention this morning that were in the immunology session, one was just published last week in Nature by Mike Farzan and was presented here. And his approach is to try to engineer an entry inhibitor to bypass making antibodies, but go straight for the target and try to inhibit entry. And he's come up with a really clever way to do that. And I think that he also is now getting interested in this method of gene delivery. So the concept really is that instead of eliciting an immune response with an antigen, which is proven very, very hard for vaccines, you basically make the response you want, put it in a gene therapy vector, and deliver it. And his approach looks really promising and interesting. Early days, it's a study of 4 animals. Okay. So, you know, we can't jump up and down yet.
But it's always, you know, I think our audience may not appreciate the fact that we find the best place to start with that, whatever we know about, whatever the science is, whatever is learned, and then move on upward the ladder and finding out where the next steps are. And that's what's exciting to me, is like, yes, you have to be prepared for failure. And you have to be objective and not miss the opportunities to change your course a little bit. And I've had some of the doctors this particular time, one that said, sometimes that's the most interesting moment when you can vary what you're doing and you know, understand it, take a big step back and understand how you need to make a change that you can make a difference in the outcome of the trial that otherwise would have gone forward on its own and maybe not led to the conclusion you were optimally looking for. So this is an opportunity to yet have another chance at something very novel, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, we're not close to being able to elicit these kind of responses with vaccines. So a lot of what we're hearing about is what other methods might be effective and other approaches and other kinds of antibodies that may be important, how they work, when they don't work. So I think we're digging down deeper into these concepts that have sort of been central to what we want to do with vaccines, but the details have been sketchy. So I think we're drilling down on a lot of details that could make the design of whatever approach we use much more likely to move forward.
It seems as though the science is getting so huge and massive that but you need to have this background information throughout. And what I'm saying is, I guess that's the reason why this conference becomes even more important, because you have this huge body of knowledge.
Yes.
That any little piece of it, you may need 3 or 4 pieces that are just now happening to make your project move in a better direction. So that's what makes this peer review process and exchanging of knowledge and you know, maybe partnerships that evolve out of this.
Absolutely.
Which can make this.
I think one of the ways that happens most is, you know, the poster sessions, which don't get as much attention in sort of the big screen, but where the students are presenting and people are standing around them listening, and where there's really one-on-one interaction. And I think a lot comes out of those interactions related to ideas, collaborations, interactions that may in the future develop into new ideas that people can work together. So, you know, that's why this is a nice conference. You have the big overviews, you have some of the really exciting science in 10-minute talks, and then you have posters that are really high-end, cutting-edge science. I mean, we only accept about half of the abstracts, and it's a selective meeting, so the quality of those is also high, and there's lots of interaction when you go down to the poster session.
We'll actually be interviewing or paneling in our own studios here 3 or 4 young students who are young investigators who are going to be talking and trying to dumb down that science to a point where our audience can watch it and appreciate it for what it is. I'll try to play Al and Alda a little bit, and I'm hopeful that we can make that happen. But it's, I told them just be working it out in their head how they might want to present this to their mother.
Yeah, this is good. This is good practice for junior scientists, because I think we appreciate science. Scientists are going to have to get better at this with tight funding times. These people coming up through the ranks are going to have to be better than we are at doing this on a regular basis.
Some people like Mike Sagden just whip it out, or Martin Delaney was great at translating because he did that for the community. That's what consummate professional at that. But it's always good when people can learn that. So that's what we'll be doing. We're also going to have a young investigator panel, which will talk more about their background and their challenges, you know, physically and financially and emotionally and so forth, which there are many. And often we have mentors who are often in those meetings. I think we're going to have Scott Hammer hosting that, because he has a certain special interest in young investigators. He likes to see that he's like a kid in a candy store, because it's so exciting for him and me and John Mellors and Mario Stevenson and so forth. It's great to watch the excitement there. Throwing the T-shirts to those that ask the questions and so forth in the early program in the morning.
I think John's going to have to work on his arm.
Yeah. He's got a little bit of a He's not hitting the mark.
That's right. The range of motion.
Well, is there anything else that you feel that jumped out that seemed to be exciting for you at the conference? That
again, I think the antibody focus has been there, but also the innate immune aspects. We're starting to appreciate that this idea of eliciting antibodies, which is adaptive immunity, is one approach, but there may be these more generalized approaches of innate immunity. And you know, there was an emphasis on HCV at this meeting, partly for the reason, of course, of its great success in antiviral treatment, but it's also a model for studying innate interactions and how you might harness them for developing protective approaches. So I think that was another emphasis.
And the innate immune system is the most basic form of in the immune system. It's kind of like there from day one. The adaptive immune system is that which has evolved because of all the interactions that the body has seen over time. And I know Jay Levy used to be working really hard on innate immune system many years ago. And it's wonderful to see how these fields and these areas, specialities, evolve over the years, and who grows into them, and who learns more about them. And like I say, it's so much. I mean, I see so many things that are exciting, like you go down the post and say, oh, this is important, oh, this is important. And yet, if you're able to Google it now, I guess you can really get almost anything you want, knowledge base, through, get a poster will just pop up, and there you've got what you need to know.
Yeah.
So the science, it helps to move the science along. The evolution of all this transmission through the internet seems to be a great tool to get people to where they need to go with all the pieces that are out there, and knowing where they can find them.
Yeah, it's accessible, but it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
There's an information overload. It's just hard to keep up on all the things that are happening.
Well, thank you so much, Julie, for being here.
You're welcome.
It's an exciting conference, and you're gracious to be here and help us to describe some of the details of the conference. Again, thank you.
You're welcome.